this week's episode of Akame ga Kill, the hooded mystery man uses his teleportation abilities to send both Tatsumi and Esdeath away to a deserted paradise island, and it's only a matter of time before the sexually charged shenanigans ensue. I have never wanted to be Tatsumi more than in this week's episode. And you know what? I gotta give the guy some props. He was able to push away her advances the entire episode, and that's a pretty hard thing to do when you're stuck on a deserted island with her, because bouncy bouncy. The concept of this episode alone is definitely going to be entertaining for fans of Akame ga Kill. It's filled to the brim with lots of crazy action, fighting against monsters, tons of Esdeath fan service. Not only that, but we actually get to learn a little bit more about her background, and there's also that new character who was introduced, who is the guy who's wearing the hood, and we get to learn really who he is at the very end of the episode, but we get to see his powers at the beginning when he teleports both Tatsumi and Esdeath away, and when I first saw him, he has the scar over his face, and my first thought was, wow, he reminds me totally of Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. And what's the name of his Imperial Arms weapon? Shambhala. What's the name of the movie from Full Metal Alchemist? The Conqueror of Shambhala. I'm not sure if I'm just reaching here, but it's certainly one crazy coincidence. Not to mention, he basically creates a transmutation circle and sends them away to the desert island. And this is where the best parts of the episode come into play. Of course, there's a lot of hilarity over the fact that Esdeath is head over heels in love with Tatsumi, and it's just funny trying to see Tatsumi do everything in his power to keep everything in his pants, and to also learn a little bit more about Esdeath and to try to bring her over to the Night Raid side of the Force. However, that's not going to work so easy, because Esdeath decides that she's going to go into her backstory, and we get to see her as a little kid. She grew up in this old northern tribe where it was constantly snowing, and they hunted down danger beasts and monsters. If you ever wanted to see Esdeath as a little kid slitting a massive dinosaur's throat and pulling a weird glowing orb out of it, this is the episode for you. It's also kind of creepy because there's this one scene where she's literally butchering one of these things and she just like stabs its eyeball out and she's just looking at it like, oh, this is the best day of my life. And then it eventually all leads up to the scene where her tribe was burned to the ground and killed by another tribe. Although, while growing up with her father, she had one rule: the strong survive, the weak die. And she took that with her for the rest of her life when she finally joined the capital, and she transitioned from killing danger beasts to killing humans. It really wasn't too difficult for her, although killing danger beasts definitely worked for her powers, because when you see her going off this week, it's great, because we all knew that she had ice powers, but the size and magnitude of the abilities she can use are insane. She creates a massive sky pillar, and then she creates this massive meteorite-sized ice ball, which she uses to crush this massive zombie, which looks a lot like Dr. Stylish. They do mention that. It has like the same form with the zombie coming out of the other zombie's head, and it might even be the zombified version of Dr. Stylish, but thanks to Esdeath and Tatsumi, they take him out no problem. Now, the main thing this week, obviously, is that Tatsumi is stuck on an island with Esdeath, and he's trying to get away, but he's also trying to get a little information out of her. But they're also stuck on the island. They have to try and find a way to get back home, and supposedly, if this guy activates his whole teleportation circle again, they can just jump right back in, and they'll be back where they were before. Eventually, both Esdeath and Tatsumi are teleported back to the spot they were originally. However, Tatsumi uses his Incursio armor to hide himself, and that's when he finally realizes he's not going to be able to convince Esdeath to join Night Raid, and the next time they see each other, they're going to be enemies. And I really can't wait to see how Esdeath is going to react to his decision, what he's actually going to do, and when she finds out that he's in Night Raid, because I don't know if she's going to change her opinion of Tatsumi, or if she's still just going to be completely in love with him. Although, I just love the dynamic between the two characters. I just think it's great. But at the very end of the episode, they finally formally introduce this guy in the hood, who has a very creepy design. He has these like weird horns on his head, he has the X on his face, and he also happens to be something of a physical abuser. He's laying down with this woman, and then he just decides to punch her in the gut when she speaks ill of the minister. And that's because this guy is actually the son of the evil minister himself, and he doesn't like it when you talk bad about him. So obviously, this guy's pretty corrupt. I'm a little disappointed that he has connections to people in the capital and in the government, because I wanted him to be like his own separate like side character who was just going to oppose everyone, just another third party to mix things up. Although I can't wait to see what this character is capable of, because even Esdeath mentions that his abilities are definitely really crazy, especially because his Imperial Arms weapon is in like the top percentile of most powerful weapons. Speaking of which, you actually get to see how Esdeath actually got her Imperial Arms, and if you've ever been wondering what the deal is with that crazy little tattoo she has on her chest, that's actually the Imperial Arms itself, and that's because she drank this like blood out of this big golden cauldron that came from a danger beast that would allow her to control ice. The catch-22 is, if you drink this stuff, you're going to be driven insane and go mad. But Esdeath is already pretty freaking crazy, so she's able to overcome this. And I don't know if this is going to come into play later as the series goes on. My theory is when she finally finds out that Tatsumi is a member of Night Raid and she can't accept it, that's when the crazy side of her is going to start to come out a little bit more, and that's when the blood is going to start taking over her body. And we'll see like another side of Esdeath that we haven't seen before. And I think that just is inevitable. Otherwise, what's the rundown on this week's episode? I loved it. I loved it a lot. If it's an Esdeath episode, I'm definitely going to enjoy it a lot. It was very heavy on the fan service, which, since it's Esdeath, I don't mind so much, but I know a lot of people out there don't like fan service, especially when it's really blatant, and, you know, there's just a lot of obvious shots. You know, they're on a beach, they're on an island. They're definitely going to do some Esdeath fan service. There's a lot of times when she's not wearing her main outfit anymore, and you get to see pretty much everything. It leaves little to be desired, but you know what? It's handled mostly in good taste. However, it does start to get a little crazy at the end when she literally is straddling Tatsumi, and, you know, good for him. Otherwise, the animation and the artwork was really good this week, especially during that big action scene where Tatsumi and Esdeath decided to team up with each other. That was just really exciting. And of course, that new character is just a real despicable asshole. Just the fact that he's the son of the minister enough is, you know he's probably a bad guy. But at the very end of the episode, they make it clear that he's just not very nice. I can't wait to see his next confrontation with Esdeath, and the fact that he's actually working under the minister makes me realize they're probably not going to be opponents. He's probably going to end up working with him at some point, or maybe he's just going to go off and do his own thing. I really don't know how to read that character at all, but this was also an interesting episode because they don't go to the other members of Night Raid at all. This was basically a full focus on Tatsumi and Esdeath and the fact that they were building their relationship in this episode, and in many ways, that conflicted Tatsumi, because there was a moment when he tried to escape alone, and then he realized that she helped him the entire time when they were on the island, and it's not like she was doing anything bad or anything, you know? She had good intentions of looking out for the best of Tatsumi, and they've really grown a strong relationship, so I think when they actually do meet up on the battlefield, it's not going to be as easy as he thinks. He's probably still going to harbor some small feelings. He might not love her, but he still respects the fact that she took care of him. Technically speaking, the animation, the artwork, the voice acting, the music, everything just worked this week. The island itself looked really nice. There were a lot of really crazy monsters. The backstory of Esdeath was handled a little well, if a little cliche, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. Plus, it was just cool to see her as a little kid jumping and killing dinosaurs and slitting their throats. That's the only kind of thing that could work in anime series, just because it's so crazy and ridiculous. Otherwise, I really loved this one a lot. It wasn't a perfect episode, and some people might actually be turned off by the fan service, but I myself am obsessed with Esdeath. She's easily one of my favorite female characters of all time, and I love just watching her because she steals every scene that she is in. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Make sure and check it out, fans of Akame ga Kill. You will not be disappointed. This is our obligatory beach episode of Akame ga Kill. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button so you can give it a thumbs up. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Akame ga Kill. How do you think that hooded man is going to come into the story? And what do you think is going to happen in the next confrontation between Esdeath and Tatsumi? Also, before you guys leave, make sure and go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you've not already. You can do that by clicking on our channel icon right up here in the top corner. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.